Hello there, everybody, people. Hope you are all doing well this fantastic day. It is slightly chilly up here. At least I think it is. American and Canada, we gotta get used to the chilly winter weather coming up. So today is this week is the final week of Financial Literacy Month, and today's topic is talking about being a smart borrower of money, and how can we borrow money more strategically in our lives. Um, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the comment section and I will get to them. Also, if you're watching this post live, then you can continue to leave your questions or comments, and um, this is a forever post, so I will be forever answering questions that you drop down. Y'all are amazing and very supportive. So, a bulk of the research done for this week was done by my business partner, Matt Jacome. He is amazing at what he does. I gotta tell you, this guy knows how to do amazing research. So shout out to Matt for being an awesome business partner. So, today, um, today there are many opportunities to borrow money out in the world, and there are many reasons to borrow money, such as to buy a home, to buy a car, to go on a fancy vacation. We also borrow money through our credit cards, just by buying simple things such as gas, groceries, um, that shampoo that just ran out. you know. We also use up our utilities, so our hydro, our electric, our gas. That is a form of borrowing because we pay those expenses after we've used them up. So it is a form of borrowing money. Um, Sometimes we will borrow our money not only from big institutions or companies, but we also might borrow money from our families or friends. So we got to keep an eye out for if we do uh, get loans from families. We have to be able to make sure that's in our borrowing budget as well. So, some So we'll kind of deep dive in the pros and cons of the different borrowing alternatives that are out there. The first one we have are banks, the most well-known form of borrowing. Some benefits of borrowing through their bank is that it's very easy, it's very familiar. Everybody knows how to pretty much go through the process of asking the bank for money, and they'll say yay or nay depending on your credit score and things like that. The people are usually very, very helpful in letting you know how much you're able to borrow, the terms of the loan, and what might be the best way for you to borrow that money and for you to repay it. Um, some cons or downfalls of borrowing through the bank would be that they charge really high fees. Some of the fees go towards the interest on the loans, but also just a usage fee for the bank just saying, yeah, you can borrow this money. Another thing is that since banks are privately owned, um, their main benefit is to make money for themselves and for shareholders. So they most of the time, in the grand scheme of things, do not have the best interest of the borrowers in mind. They have their own personal agenda of wanting to get the most out of people, but also wanting to get it in the most secure way as well. Another con for banks would be that sometimes they will sell any of loans that have been not defaulted but are on the line. They might sell those out to a collection agency or a different loan agency, and you might not be notified of those changes. And so your interest, your payments might fluctuate. They might go up with those types of sells. So you gotta keep an eye out. You gotta watch any of the loans that you take out with the bank. Keep a close eye on if they do give you notifications on things like that. Another form of borrowing is through credit unions. So credit unions are a bit different than banks, whereas they focus more on giving people credit, so giving out loans and things like that. Um, one good thing is that if you're a member of a credit union, is usually better. You'll get slightly better fees, and the terms that you might have, the length of time you're able to borrow, will be a bit more flexible since you're already paying membership dues and things like that. And they are generally a non-for-profit, and so their fees, as well as their interest, will be lower. A downside is that there are few credit unions out there for you to decide from, and so you have to choose the best one for you and your situation. Another very popular way of borrowing money in this day and age is peer-to-peer lending, also known as crowdfunding, or in some people's cases, borrowing from mom and dad. So borrowing from family also falls into a peer-to-peer lending. Um, we always see those GoFundMe, or GoFundMe is really the biggest one I've seen out there of peer-to-peer lending. There's a lot of other ones. You can even just do a normal Facebook GoFundMe type thing as well. Um, Sometimes you will need to pay back those borrowings as well if you have certain terms into them. Um, Shark Tank could sort of be like a peer-to-peer, if you've ever seen that. It's actually kind of interesting. Lending where they give out a certain amount of dollars for a certain amount of someone's company, but in a personal finance way, they'd be giving you money with an expectation of you paying back in a certain amount of time. Um, Sometimes it can be a bit more flexible on the terms, how long you're borrowing from someone. If it's a family member, usually, if you have a good sibling or good family relationship, they'll be flexible on the terms, they'll be forgiving on the length of time that you're going to borrow. And sometimes the fees can be minimal to none. Um, I personally, if a loan is small enough, I just won't charge interest on some, on a family member, because I know if they need to borrow money from me, that they probably really need it, and that I won't be a hound dog on them saying, pay me that interest, even though sometimes I do. I'm one of those siblings that secretly wants to charge interest. um, Another downfall to some peer-to-peer lendings, some crowdfundings, is all the fees um, to get that money. So sometimes, such as a GoFundMe, they have fees for you to set up an account on there to borrow that money, and potentially credit card fees. There's and all that kind of stuff. So speaking of credit cards, another form of borrowing is through our credit cards. Everybody uses a credit card. Everybody pretty much has a credit card. Some may even have more than one. So we know the pros of credit cards. We're able to pay for things now, not pay for things, buy things now, and pay for them later. That ease of having everything pretty much at our fingertips. The world is our oyster. Um, Sometimes we're also able to get benefits. Some credit cards have that point system, where if you buy from Walmart, Amazon, Target, you get 3 points, 5 points for every purchase or every X amount of dollars that you use. There's also the benefits of getting the the cash back. If you spend over $1,000, you get $100 that you can spend either to pay the credit card or to spend at another place such as Amazon. Some downfalls is the interest rates if we do not pay those credit cards. Um, Sometimes the average could be about 20% interest, and that is um, most credit cards will charge that interest from the day that you purchase that item. So from Tuesday that you purchased that, I'm trying to think of something that we purchased. So from that game, we just bought a board game today. So from today that we purchased our board game on the credit card, it's going to start charging us interest, and so we got to pay that original balance, so the original price of the game, plus any interest that have earned up, that added up each day that we haven't paid. So every now and then we can pay off that credit card very easily, but if we keep letting it carry over from month to month, it will add up very, very quickly, and interest always hits you the hardest. In our minds, we always think, "Oh yes, I have that $20 in cash right now, but I feel like paying with a credit card so I can get those points." But as you continue to forget day to day to pay off that credit card, that interest adds up, and then the interest is just as much as that game you just paid for. So you're like double paying for things. Um, Another con is if you do continue to forget to pay, you'll get dinged on your credit score. The horror stories of having a bad credit score, we all have heard them, might have gone through that experience. It can be very, very stressful. So being able to control our credit card spending it only on things we know we're able to pay off in a short amount of time, and paying off the credit card completely every single time that we do pay it off. As previously mentioned in a few videos before, I try and pay off our credit card either each payday or at the end of each month. I try and make sure that I can get it down to zero so as we don't get dinged by that high interest. Um, so something that I would like to touch on is teaching our children about borrowing money. Studies show that about 65% say of children say that their parents have taught them about just saving money, just having money in a savings account, and that only 25% say that they've learned about debt and borrowing. Um, that's a really sad statistic. I was in the 75% that didn't know much about debt and borrowing. Um, every now and then, people kind of have an innate knowledge in that, borrowing money can be bad if you borrow too much and are not able to pay it back. But uh, parents and teachers, mentors need to teach children, not just little children, teenagers are children too, that borrowing money, like it has its benefits, but it also has its downfalls if we are not able to control it. We need to help children, help people, because it not only relates to children, it also relates to adults. Not newly graduated college students, but just new college students sometimes don't understand the concept of borrowing. Um, so helping them understand that borrowing has its consequences as well as its benefits. Something that we can do to help kids understand is that if they ask for a toy, or if they ask to go on um, a scouting trip or some other school camp, helping them understand how much it's going to cost them to go on it. The idea is not to make them feel depressed or overwhelmed by the idea of, oh my gosh, it's going to cost a couple $100 to go to this thing, or it's going to cost me 10, $15 to buy that cool action figure. We don't want them to think, or think that saving and earning up for money could be a bad thing if we're all going to spend it on one thing. But helping them understand that we need to work towards those things that we want in our lives, and that everything has a price. Um, but at the same time, that the the more we work for something, the more satisfying it is as well. As previously said in the in the budgeting video, that if we're able to have a plan with our family to have a budget for a big vacation that we want to take, having everybody's dedication to that budget, to saving for that trip, will make that trip that much more enjoyable for the whole family. So using that idea of saving for a toy or saving for an experience will make it that much more enjoyable. So we should, I highly encourage that once a child is able to, such as when they become teenagers or ready to go off to college, opening up not a credit card, a bank account, a checking account, to help them start seeing the fruits of their labors, if they have chores or if they have, I don't know why salary came into mind, an allowance. It's a salary to live. If we give kids an allowance, having them see the process of having it go into a bank account and then being able to choose where it goes. So having that account when a child is able to understand the importance of it, and helping them create their own personal little budget. It's not going to be as complex as a normal family budget of utilities, house, rent. It'll be a simple one, saying, such as, okay, I'm going to go to McDonald's or Starbucks once or twice a month with my friends because I've saved up, helping them see what they can do because they've saved money. And then if they want to borrow money, helping them, instead of having them borrow from like a bank or opening up a credit card for them, you can have them borrow straight from you. I think I kind of touched upon this a few videos ago. I think that sounds right. About allowing kids to borrow directly from you and either writing out somewhere where they can see how much they've borrowed, and when you expect them to pay you back. Helping them see if you want to add interest onto that, you can. Go for it. Teach them a hard lesson sooner than later. But having them see the impacts that borrowing has on their lives. So keeping track of how much we borrow is very important, because we don't all borrow from one institution. We don't always only borrow from our bank account. We have multiple lenders out there that we can borrow from, multiple mortgage companies that we might use, multiple credit cards. We might use our Sam's credit card at Sam's and then our Walmart one at Walmart. We need to have a way to lay out where all of our debt is and then making a plan on paying each one of those. Sometimes the easiest way to do it is to lay everything out where you can see it, figure out what is the least amount of debt the least amount of debt on one single thing. So there's either the smallest loan that you have or the credit card with the smallest balance. Figure out where you can tighten the belt to pay off that amount first, and then the amount. So for example, say you had a credit card and you were paying $50 each month on it to pay it down to zero. So in 2 months, you'll have paid off that credit card. And so the $50 you were using to pay off that credit card goes on to the next credit card that you need to pay off with the next highest balance. So you're paying off the second credit card, which you were already paying $50 each month, but now you have an added $50 to pay off that card even faster. And then it's a ripple effect. It builds up until you're able to pay off all those debts much faster than you would have ever dreamed of or were already on track of paying. So kind of already went through my other little spiel here. Kind of going back a few steps on the different types of loans, of debts that we can have. So as I said, there's mortgages, there's car loans, house loans. There's also payday loans, which are similar to those other lines of credits. There's also taxes that we have to keep an eye out for. We have to plan out the best way to minimize our taxes, but every now and then we'll goof up and we'll need to owe the government some money. So being able to decrease the amount that we owe them, because they do charge interest for every day that we don't pay them their due. So having that on our list of things to pay in the whatever order it needs to be paid off. Also, our student loans, if anybody has them, making a plan to pay those off as much as possible. We highly encourage to pay at least the minimum for each of our loans and debts that we have, especially student loans, because we don't want them haunting us for our eternity. One thing to keep in mind is that sometimes people think, okay, once I die, my loans, poof, disappear. That is false. Even in death, our loans are with us. They are just passed down. They're part of our inheritance that we pass down to our children, to our friends and family. And we don't want that. We don't want our families to remember us by the $3,000 student loan we still haven't paid off. We want them to remember us for our good things, for our cheerful personalities and our amazing ideas. So paying off those loans as soon as possible. When it comes to certain loans, we are able to get some tax credits. So talking to excuse me. So talking to your accountant, CPA, tax preparer, whoever that may be, figuring out what of your debts might you be able to use to decrease your tax amounts. I know student loans, you're able to decrease however much interest you pay on those. You're able to help decrease the amount of tax that you owe. Off the top of my head, I know in the States, if you have a home mortgage, if you pay interest, you're able to deduct that as well. So coming up with a plan on how you can use your debts to your benefit at times as well. Also, choose a time frame that you want to become debt-free. As we become debt-free, we become more confident in ourselves and we become more enlightened, so to say. So we might have an idea, okay, I want to become debt-free by the end of my life. Great goal, but you can do better than that. As we lay out all of our debts, as we lay out all of our expenses for each month, each year, even if you want to lay it out to each week or each day, having that bird's eye view of what you're spending, what you're able to save, what you're able to pay off, and figuring out, okay, I have credit card number 1. I'm able to pay it off in 2 months if I stick to my plan of paying $50. Stick to that plan. And now credit card number 1 isn't going to take an entire year to pay off. It's only going to take 2 months. And then doing that building of paying off debts, we're able to stick to our plans that we make, and potentially, um, if we plan right and we're able to use any benefits that we get, any bonuses from work, any refunds from the government, can go straight to our debts and pay them off even faster than we already had planned. Um, I highly suggest each year to look back on our plan, see how well we did. If something needs to change, change it, adjust it. But also, um, see, I think I already said that, change, adjust. See what we can do better to pay off those debts. See, maybe the plan that we had for 2 years in the future isn't applicable now today, because maybe either we're making more money now, so we can potentially add $5, add $10 more onto each payment to pay off something even faster. There's also that possibility where we might have either lost a job or switched jobs that we haven't been able to bring it back up to our normal earning amount. I can't talk for some reason. And so we will have to adjust our budget and our plan to reflect those changes. Also, having that time frame, you're able to talk with your family, and they'll be able to keep you accountable. You can keep each other accountable. Be like, okay, we've paid off this credit card. So what's the plan now? Which credit card do you want to pay off? Which one do you think we'll be able to pay off the fastest? Highly recommend that you pay off either, like I said, either the lowest amount, so such as that credit card with $100 that we can pay off in 2 months, or pay off the debt with the highest interest. Interest is bad, as previously stated. If we're able to pay those off, we have less money to pay, or less money that needs to be paid. I don't know if that makes sense. But the interest is usually what hits people the hardest. It's kind of the slap in the face that you get every single time you have to pay for something. Like, oh my gosh, was the interest really that much? Did I have to pay 20% more than what I purchased something for? So paying off that highest interest as soon as possible as well. I'm kind of jumping around here. So having that meeting with your family, having that collaboration, you're able to keep each other accountable. In my family, I always discuss with my husband every single time I decide to change our family budget. Oh, sorry, got a dog here. Chino. He likes barking at everybody who walks around. So every time I change our budget in our family, I talk to my husband. I say, okay, I just changed our plan, our payment plan for something. Does this sound reasonable to you? Does it sound reasonable to up our payment for the student loan? Does it sound reasonable for us to decrease our spending each month to X amount? And so there's that collaboration and that accountability that, okay, he agreed to this plan. So now I can hold him accountable if he decides to, back up on his agreement. I'll be like, well, you agreed to it, so deal with it. That's the kind of relationship we have, we keep each other accountable. We're able to be open about everything. If needs be, you can go to a consolidation place. Go somewhere where they can gather up all your loans so as they can be in one single location. So as you're not worrying about paying different people's different amounts, you can just pay one person X amount of dollars. The interest rate will be just one certain amount. But also, as my last video said, research. If you do decide to go on the consolidation loan path, research each one, see which one will be most compatible for you and your situation. So, the most obvious advice I can give you is to stay away from debt as much as possible. Um, of course, everybody in their life is going to go into debt for their homes, for the cars, for their education. That is very understandable. But avoid going into debt for anything else as much as possible. Um, we don't want to add that stress onto our own personal lives or onto our family's lives. Because whatever impacts us usually will flow out onto other people that we surround ourselves with, be it friends or families, sometimes even pets. They can feel our stress that we have, and it will just, um, if we're able to control that debt, we're able to control our emotions. We're able to be happier people. Um, Some ways that we can avoid going into debt would be planning out our dinners, planning out our meals, figuring out, okay, the grocery store has a sale on lunch meats this week. So I'm going to buy as much lunch meat as reasonably possible, um, and have sandwiches that I take to work instead of going to McDonald's and buying their Big Mac. You know, um, that will help reduce any debt or and any charge that we might put onto our credit cards and things. Um, Figuring out, maybe carpooling with somebody that we go to work with or go to an event with, um, instead of everyone driving to work, everyone driving to a big event, individually, having everybody go in one vehicle. Not only is it good for the environment, but it is good on our wallets. We're able to save money that way, taking public transport, for example. For those who drink coffee or hot chocolate, which is my version of coffee is hot chocolate. Instead of going to Starbucks, to Tim's to buy that every single day, um, finding finding those few dollars to buy and make it at home. A coffee maker might be a little investment, but every single time that we're able to make those drinks at home, we save pennies, and pennies add up very quickly. Um, if we're not able to find ways to either consolidate our debts, we've already made a plan to pay off those debts, we might have to go to another option of paying debts quickly, which would be increasing our income. If you can't decrease your spendings, you got to increase your income. Sometimes it can be as simple as looking for another job. Um, Actually, JK, going back, it could be as simple as asking for either a raise in your company or looking for those opportunities in your company to climb the ladder, find more opportunities. When it comes to that, sometimes we'll get more responsibilities in our jobs, but that's okay. That will help us grow. You have to always look at the positive of when it comes to work. Find things that you love to do. Um, it might also, to increase our income, might require us to maybe even find a completely new job at a new company. We might even start our own business. We might have to, find new opportunities in the world that we can make more money than what we previously were to help us pay off those debts that we might have. So some places that we can look for help would be families and friends. Ask them. Don't be scared to ask for help. Family's always a good place to start to ask for help. If we feel like we're starting to drown in our debts, go straight to your family. I'm sure maybe one of them went through a similar experience that you're going through now, and they're able to help you. Friends as well. You can go to professionals such as a tax professional, a CPA, also financial advisors. There's many of them out there that are willing to help you. You can go to some non or not for profit organizations that can give you counsel. There's public places that you probably go to to have them help you create that budget, figure out what you can do better in your life to pay off those debts. Um, the number one thing to help you is to create that budget. The first thing about financial literacy, the first topic was about creating a budget and sticking to it. That is the number one theme that's been flowing out throughout each topic of each week is having that budget. But we also need to stick to those budgets that we create, having the accountability with someone else to stick to those budgets. But also, do your research. Make sure that the person you are going to for advice has the experience that they say they have. I guess you can't do too much research when it comes to friends and family, but also, choose the right person, someone who has your best interest in mind. Should be us. JK. Well, not JK. Go to whoever you feel most comfortable with. One last thing that I would like to touch upon is allowing other people to borrow money from us. So I've mainly gone over the fact that we borrow money from everyone and everything around us, but other people will also need to borrow money. So when it comes to other people borrowing money from us, we got to make sure that we can sustain that person's borrowing. If somebody borrows a couple $100s, couple thousand to help them either buy a car or start a business, keep track of that. If you're going to charge interest, let them know. Stay on top of them, because it'll help them become better people, help them manage their money, but it'll also help you not stress about, oh, I have $1,000 missing. Now I can't do XYZ. As they are able to pay you back in a payment plan, you'll become less stressed. Be like, okay, this money, I still have it with me. I can still use it. I can still save it for my future, for my kids' future. So do your research on that too. If somebody borrows money from you, make sure they're able to pay you back in a reasonable amount of time. If they borrow a couple hundred from you and they're not able to pay you back in like 3 months, you should probably look into that and be like, okay, well, what can we do to either save for whatever you're buying for so as you can not borrow as much, or make a plan with them, talk with them, if someone wants to borrow from you. Having that open conversation with everything that has to do with money. I personally think you can't say anything wrong when it comes to money. Others might disagree, but having an open conversation never hurts anything. And my little quote that I liked, I don't know if I invented it or anything, but as easy as it is to dig a ditch, it is much harder to climb out without a plan. So having that plan in mind, as we either go into debt or as we are trying to get out of debt, having that plan in mind will help things feel much easier and help us be better people. Having that debt payment plan will give us confidence and let us know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope for us in our lives. Having a budget lets us see where our income is coming from and where it is going. We're able to keep track of things so much easier. And even if you don't have debt right now, making a plan of going into debt kind of seems like an oxymoron. But we know that we're going to have a major purchase in the future. Having that plan, like, okay, I'm going to only borrow X amount of dollars in the future when I have to buy a car, when I have to buy a house. Having that plan, like, okay, I know I'll be able to pay off that loan in 5 years, in 25 years. Saving up, you're like, okay, so I'm going to, can't think of an example right now. I'm going to save up for a down payment that will help reduce how much I will need to borrow. So having that plan of going into debt will help us also be better and help us for our future. And teaching that to our children, letting them see that, okay, we are making a plan, we are sticking to it. If I can do it, you can do it. There's many resources out there that we can go to. Thank you for listening to me and my wealth of knowledge, as well as my business partner and his wealth of knowledge. We are always here to help people not only, reduce their debts and help them organize their lives on a personal basis, but as well on a business basis. Y'all are amazing. Have a great day, week, month, year. And we hope to see you again some other time. Let me see if I can turn this off. Remember, leave your comments, like us, Facebook, anywhere else you see us, and let us know how we can help you. Bye.